This is the January 17th meeting of the Monroe County Plan Commission, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to all the members of the public who have attended tonight, and I'd also like to thank Council Member Jeff McKim for his years of service on the Plan Commission, and welcome Cheryl Munson, who is our County Councilwoman, who will be now serving on the Plan Commission. So thank you very much. We're honored to have you. And with that being said, could you please swear Council Member Munson in?
Sure. So Cheryl, I think you have a piece of paper on your desk. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and read that out loud.
I, Cheryl Munson, do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States of America and of the state of Indiana, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform my duties as a Monroe County Plan Commission member, according to the law and to the best of my skill and ability.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Nestor Jelen, would you kindly call the roll?
Sure. Margaret Clemens.
Here.
Tronan Wright Randolph. Bernie Garitas.
Here.
Jeff Morris.
Here.
Cheryl Munson.
Here.
Dee Owens.
Here.
Jerry Pittsford. Julie Thomas.
Here.
And we have no one from the city attending tonight.
Okay, thank you. And could we have a motion to introduce the evidence?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. It's been moved and seconded to introduce the following items into the evidence. The Monroe County zoning ordinance is adopted and amended. The Monroe County comprehensive plan is adopted and amended. The Monroe County subdivision control ordinance as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Plan Commission rules of procedure as adopted and amended. And the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
And will you kindly call the roll?
Sure. Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Jeff Morris.
Yes.
Cheryl Munson.
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries
Is there
6-0.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda as advertised?
So moved.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. Jeff Morris.
Yes.
Cheryl Munson.
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Okay, it's been approved 6-0.
And there are minutes. Have members of the Plan Commission had an opportunity to review them? And if so, is there a motion to approve the November 15th, 2022 minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the November 15th, 2022 meeting minutes. A motion in favor is a motion to approve the minutes. Cheryl Munson.
I'll pass.
Okay. Dee Owens.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Tron and Wright Randolph, would you like to approve the November 15th minutes?
The minutes?
Yes.
I did review them. Sorry for my tardiness.
That's
I'll
okay.
vote yes on the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Jeff Morris.
Yes.
Okay, motion is to approve the minutes by a 6-0 to 1 vote.
Okay, the first item that we'll be discussing tonight is under administrative business, and we have changes to our Plan Commission rules of procedure. And I suppose, Ms. Nestor Jelen, you'll be discussing those with us?
Yes. Let me go ahead and pull up the agenda here. And then I'll share. Thank you. Okay, so the Plan Commission members have been working hard on amending the rules of procedure, so I can go through these. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at these. So starting on Article 2 meetings, C is being added as well as D. So C says the Plan Commission may continue items from a regular meeting to a future administrative meeting for a vote if the majority of the Plan Commission vote in favor of the continuance. D says, in the event that the regular meeting of the Plan Commission is canceled for lack of quorum, items will automatically be continued to an administrative meeting and will be conducted as a public hearing.
Yes.
I'll keep moving. So under Article 3 disqualification, number 3, it says, the disqualified member shall leave the dais and either sit in the audience or leave the hearing room until disposition, final or temporary, of the matter. And then number 4 says, a Plan Commission member may not receive any mileage or compensation from the Plan Commission for attendance at a meeting during which the member is disqualified from participating for the entirety of the scheduled hearings. We have changes under conduct of hearings. We're also updating our petition review process so that we are reflecting all the subdivision types.
Yes, I noticed, Jackie, if I could, that the red line is still in this copy. So we want to
Yes.
get rid of that before.
Yes, so when I accept the track changes, Dee, that's a good question. This graphic will go away. That's shown on the screen, and it will be replaced by this graphic.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, under conduct of hearings, which is good for tonight's meeting. We can introduce the conduct of hearings as we do it now. So under B, a Plan Commission member shall introduce the petition as listed on the approved agenda. D, after being recognized by the presiding officer, the petitioner or an authorized representative shall be asked to speak, state their name, state whether they are a Monroe County resident or property owner, and if in person, sign the registration sheet before proceeding to present the facts and arguments in support of the petition. Item E, we're adding, once the initial presentation by staff is complete, commission members may make comments and ask questions of staff. Under item J, we're adding, Plan Commission members shall discuss the merits of the petition, seeking clarification from staff, department heads, and participants as appropriate. The conduct is as follows. I, or Roman numeral lowercase 1, a Plan Commission member may make a dispositive motion. Roman numeral 2, the maker of the original motion may accept and incorporate any amendments by Plan Commission members to avoid a vote on the amendment with concurrence of the second. 3.
Jackie,
Oh, sure, go ahead.
could
Dee.
I jump in there? On little II on page 18, and it's identical on page 20. I understand what we were trying to get to, but when you read that through, especially as the person who hasn't gone through this iterative process, it doesn't make any sense. I think read it again out loud and see if.
Sure. The maker of the original motion may accept and incorporate any amendments by Plan Commission members to avoid a vote on the amendment with concurrence of the second.
And
I just think it could be made a little more clear, possibly. Just reading that out of the blue is like a little confusing. How about of the members second or something?
I thought the original version was clear, you know, with the Plan Commission member may move to approve or deny, amend the question in order for the amendment to be considered, it must receive a second. I thought that was clearer rather than the dispositive. I don't.
Oh, well, that's on number 1. Yeah, I agree with that. People have to get out the dictionary to see what that is. I was talking about number 2, but yeah, both of them, Margaret, I agree.
Yeah, and there was another place that, where that occurs. So I think the original version under 1, or the original version 1, was more clear. I don't know how other members of the Plan Commission feel about that. Anyone? Ms. Council Member Munson?
I would agree that dispositive is not the best term to use.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I believe at the administrative meeting, we had it as move to approve or deny, and there were some questions on, say, for instance, rezones that were getting forwarded to the commissioners, and whether that reflected all of the options. So that's why we had switched it from approve or deny, because we have a lot of different options. We have continue, forward, favorable recommendation, continue, or approve with conditions.
18.
Cheryl?
Excuse me, could it say a Plan Commission member may move to take action without specifying which particular action?
Oh, I like that. That sounds
I do
great.
too. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
And then you want me to make 2 into what it was originally and then take out the blueprint on that?
I
Okay.
think so. It will just be more clear. And on page 20, it's rather similar.
Right,
Yes.
yes. We added those. So I'll make those changes to both sections.
Okay.
So I'll just read 2 as the maker of the original motion may accept and incorporate the amendment into the original motion to avoid a vote on the amendment with concurrence of the second for the original motion. That's how you'd
That
like to.
sounds
That makes
good.
more sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And then 4, when discussion is complete, the Plan Commission President will prompt staff to call for a vote on the motion. And then 6, steps shall be repeated until an offered motion receives a majority vote. If a majority vote cannot be achieved, the petition will automatically be continued to the next regular meeting of the Plan Commission.
Okay.
And then the same as below, so we will make those changes to the items below. And then this is, yes, so this is a duplicate of above. This is just where the Plan Commissioner, County Commissioners are taking forward the petition, whereas the above reference is when the public is taking forward the petition. So these are the same. Okay. And then staff did do a full read through the rules of procedure, and we found one other change that we'd like to propose, which is under 8, which is that written notice sent by fax, email, or first-class U.S. mail, and to any non-applicant property owners by accountable U.S. mail at least 6 days prior to the hearing date. That covers us since we send our packets 7 days in advance.
And I just was trying to go over this chart on page 34.
Sure.
And I wasn't necessarily able to correlate all the numbers with who, how, and when given by whom. So I just wondered if we could go over that in-house and review that carefully.
Sure.
Yeah.
It is it's a difficult matrix there.
Yes.
Okay, and then the article miscellaneous policies and directives, we just added in here something that's been voted in the past, which is for purposes of the Monroe County Code 811-5C6, the 2 types of bonds/financial guarantees that are acceptable to the Plan Commission are letters of credit and certified checks that satisfy the requirements of Monroe County Code 858-3. So those are all the changes, and as I read them, we made 2 edits to 2 different sections. Does the Plan Commission feel comfortable for a vote on this tonight, or would you like to see this at another meeting?
I do. I think we have one amendment that we've made here that we've all consented to, yes?
Okay.
Did you still want to go through that matrix chart before I make a motion?
Well, I don't know legally what is best because that is a legal notification requirement, and I'm not exactly confident that it correlates with your intentions. So,
So we do look at that table pretty closely and follow it exactly, but if the question is that it's not easily readable by the public, we could work to reformat it at a future meeting.
no, that's not necessary. I
Okay.
just want to make sure that the right parties are being notified in the right paragraphs and all of that. So if you're confident with it, then I have confidence in what you've written. I just was having a little bit of user issue, but that's okay.
I did sort of a spot check of a couple of them and went back and looked to see if those numbers had changed, and they hadn't. But I guess that might be the question too, is with the revisions, if any of these numbers indicated on the matrix have changed, if those have been picked up, because I feel like they were, but it's,
Yeah.
okay.
We didn't change any part of that notification requirement, so we're okay on that part.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve what we have discussed tonight? You know, there were two sections, I believe, that had some changes pertaining to paragraphs that we feel we've made more clear as far as taking action versus dispositive statements.
Yeah, so I'll move approval of the rules of procedure as we amended them today in the meeting.
I'll
And I will
second.
second that.
Okay.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended rules of procedure. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes?
Margaret Clemens,
Yes?
Tron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Cheryl Munson.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 7-0.
Okay, well, we're moving on to the first item under unfinished business, and that is PUO-22-1, Whitehall Business Park, PUO Amendment 1, and this is the final hearing concerning 8.99 plus or minus acre parcel in Van Buren Township, Section 1 at South Liberty Drive, and the owner is AutoVest 2 LLC, and I believe Ms. Crecelius will be discussing that with us today.
Sorry, right before Ann continues, I just want to make one announcement. There was a minor subdivision that was continued, sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. SMN-22-9, that's not on the agenda tonight, but it did receive notice to neighbors saying it would be on the Plan Commission tonight, and that was an error by staff. So just want to make it known that for anyone that's here for a minor subdivision, the address is 5118 East Ratliff Road. It's actually going to Plat Committee on Thursday, January 19th at 4 p.m.
So if members of the public are here for that case, it will not be heard tonight. So could you just repeat the address?
It's 5118 East Ratliff Road.
East Ratliff Road. Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you for that update. So, Ms. Crecelius?
Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so this is the final hearing for a proposed amendment to the Whitehall Business Park PUD. Since we have a new member, I will go through the full petition somewhat quickly. Okay, so the petition site is 8.99 acres. It's located in Van Buren Township, Section 1, and is platted. Let's see. So it's currently zoned the PUD Whitehall Business Park. So this is a, Whitehall Business Park is a fairly old PUD that was created under the city of Bloomington. We are looking at, so this is just a general photo from the 1979 creation of the PUD. The area has been developed in multiple different phases over the years. We are looking at one petition site, but I will refer to one adjacent lot as well. So the petitioner is proposing to amend the plan unit outline plan to include 10 new uses on the site. So the petition site that we're looking at is on the right side. The adjacent property that's also under the same ownership is on the left or on the west side. That property I'm going to refer to as 701 South Liberty Drive. So 701 South Liberty Drive received a development plan approval in 2019. The site was graded and stabilized, but further development has been pending. So the property owner intends to develop both the petition site and 701 South Liberty Drive. The petitioner intends to adjust the lot lines if this is approved, if the the outline plan amendment is approved. So they want to adjust the lot lines between the two properties so that 701 contains the southern half of our petition site. So this will just make you a little familiar with the area. The graded lot is that 701. Okay, so we're kind of considering two things here. One, the image on the left is the current lot line configuration, so that's how it exists now. If the outline plan goes through, on the right would be the proposed lot lines. So right now, 701 South Liberty in 2019 went through an amendment to add in a list of automobile repair services and automotive sales uses on that property. They are proposing to add in those same uses on the right side, plus one additional use that is called warehousing and distribution activities. So 701 received an approved outline plan in 2019 for 9 uses. They did strike automobile repair services minor from that list. Right now, the petitioner is proposing all uses, including automobile repair minor and warehousing and distribution. Warehousing and distribution would be only on the petition site and not on 701 South Liberty. So here's a few photos of the site. So this is looking west towards South Liberty Drive, and that is looking east, southeast on the petition site, and that's looking directly east. So the site is a flagpole shape and has a small amount of frontage on South Liberty Drive, approximately 65 feet. South Liberty Drive already has sidewalks, and the site utilizes CBU water and sewer. The property has multiple utility easements crossing the property, and if development is pursued, the property and the developer will be required to work with the CBU to alter the utilities and easements. The petition site and 701 South Liberty Drive are located within the Sinking Creek and West Fork Clear Creek critical drainage areas. Any kind of drainage implications of development will be reviewed under a PUD development plan. So at Plan Review Committee, we had a good amount of questions for the petitioner to address, most that we've gone through, and you've heard at the preliminary hearing. We have updated our recommendation tonight to include any of the areas that were kind of lacking clarification. So one of the items that wanted to be addressed was a proposed easement, technically 2 proposed easements. So at Plan Review Committee, they had discussed requesting an easement from the petitioner to the Monroe County Commissioner-owned property on the far east side of the petition site. That county commissioner-owned property is currently used for regional drainage. The other easement that was mentioned at Plan Review Committee was a kind of through easement, because the design of the property right now would have 2 entrances once the lot line changes, so that, say, vehicles could enter at the flagpole and exit through 701 South Liberty. The petitioners have shown both of those proposed easements. This is one of the more recent drafts of just their conceptual site plan. So we did some research on the easement dedicated that was given to the county. So this came up from 1989, And the lovely employees of the auditor's office went ahead and used COGO to identify the approximate location of that easement. So it appears it's on the northern property, is not on the petition site. So, requesting a new easement on the petition site would still be valid. So I think we had some questions around this, so we did find that documentation. One of the questions that came up was if there was any kind of coordination that needed to happen with other departments. Paul Statterly, the highway engineer, did identify that a traffic signal modifications would be needed, and then an agreement would be needed that covers the scope of work and cost reimbursement. Okay, so our new recommendations based on kind of new information about the last few plan edits that we had requested that were not answered. They were answered after the packet was published last week. So we are recommending forwarding a positive recommendation for the plan unit outline plan amendment based on the findings of fact, subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer reports and the following conditions. That the use of automotive repair service minor is stricken from the list due to the residential requirement for this use. That would be consistent with 701 South Liberty not having that use as well. Number 2, that the petitioner record a written commitment to grant an easement to the county commissioners for ingress-egress access to their parcel on the east side. Number 3, that the petitioner adhere to the sign structure standards outlined in Chapter 807, specifically the regulations applied to the commercial zones under Table 7-1. Number 4, that the through easement between the petition site and 701 South Liberty will be referred to in the individual lot deeds. Number 5, that the petitioner update the outline plan to include Chapter 802 use conditions as stated in the next slide, and that the petitioner include statements that conditions 13, 50, and 53 are not applicable. And number 6, that the petitioner agree to condition 16 for the petition site. And on this next slide is the information that we received from the petitioner about those conditions of Chapter 802. So this is what they were agreeing to. We removed condition 16 and are conditioning that it is applicable to the site. The information that was provided, this use is only applicable for the warehousing and distribution use. And the response was more geared towards the automobile service on the other site that is not included in this request. So that is all the information I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Thomas?
So given Mr. Satterly's memo regarding the traffic light and coordinating that, I don't see that incorporated into the conditions.
I believe that will be a highway requirement under the development plan. I don't believe that needs to be conditioned now.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions of staff on this proposed? Yes, Mr. Garitas?
Very quick. So the condition that you noted that they responded to relative to the uses, is that still consistent with the 6 that you list in your proposed recommendation? Whenever we went through and you read through the 6 and then you brought up their responses, is the petitioner and the staff consistent with the recommendations 1 through 6?
We double checked that they made sense, and we verified that we would, support what they're proposing. We got this information just recently, so the petitioner hasn't seen this recommendation.
Okay.
Are there further questions for staff? No? Okay, well, if the petitioner or the petitioner's representative is present, please come to the podium and sign in. And you would have 15 minutes to make your case to us. If you're on Zoom, I think Ms. Nestor Jelen will recognize you.
I'll also mention that Lisa Ridge and Paul Satterly are on the call tonight, so if we have any questions for the highway department, they're here.
Perfect, thank you.
I don't see.
So the petitioner and the petitioner's representative are not here.
Let me check the phone number really quickly.
Mr. Butler? Paul Satterley says he needs to be unmuted. His number is 349-2554. So,
Okay, it looks like Paul is unmuted if he wishes to speak, but we do not see the petitioner on this evening.
okay, well, let's move on to those people who are in the members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition. If you are here, please come to the podium and sign in. If you're on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand, or if you're calling in by telephone, press *9 to be recognized. Do we see anyone? If there's any one member of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition, please make yourself known by coming to the podium, raising your virtual hand, or pressing *9. I would like now to unmute Mr. Satterley so that he can speak if there was something he wanted to say.
I'm just available if anybody has any questions about the traffic signal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Satterley. Then back to members of the commission for further discussion and/or a motion. Okay, Mr. Garitas.
Okay, in the matter of case number PUO-22-1, this is the planned unit outline plan amendment number 4 to the Whitehall Business Park, South Liberty Drive, parcel number 5309-01-100-034-00-015. I move that we forward this petition on to the Executive Board of Monroe County Commissioners with a positive recommendation, subject to the staff report and the Highway Department findings of fact listed in the staff report we received, with the conditions 1 through 6 as Ann read off to us a few moments ago.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Whitehall Business Park Plan Unit Outline Plan Amendment 4 with the conditions as read by staff member Ian Crecelius. A motion in favor is a motion to approve. I should probably reread these conditions just so so could you leave that for? Okay, so there's 6 conditions. The use automotive repair service minor be stricken from the list due to residential requirement for this use. 2, the petitioner record a written commitment to grant an easement to the county commissioners for ingress-egress access to parcel 53-09-01-100-001.000-015. 3, petitioner adhere to the sign structure standards outlined in Chapter 807 and specifically the regulations applied to commercial zones under Table 7-1. 4, a through easement between petition site and 701 South Liberty be referred to in an individual lot deeds. 5, petitioner to update outline plan to include Chapter 802 use conditions as stated in the next slide, specifically that the petitioner includes statements that conditions 13, 50, and 53 are not applicable, and that the petitioner, number 6, agreed to condition 16 for the petition site. A motion in favor is a motion to approve with those conditions as stated. Julie Thomas?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes?
Tron and Wright Randolph?
Yes.
Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Jeffrey Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. The
And
next
this
item.
will go to the county commissioners for a final vote.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is under new business, and it's SMN-21-11, the Naylor Shepherd minor preliminary plat right-of-way width waiver requested. This is the preliminary hearing, and the petitioner has requested a waiver of the final hearing concerning one parcel on 38.023 plus or minus acres in Section 34 of Washington Township at 1261 East Sample Road. Ms. Behrman, we look forward to hearing from you on this case.
All right. This was filed back in 2021, so I'm glad to be able to present it to you finally. It is located at 1201 East Sample Road, sometimes known as 1261 East Sample Road. We are going to fix some addresses during the final platting and confirm all of that. It's about 38 acres right on East Sample Road there, which has been under construction, and a lot of right-of-way was taken a couple of years ago, which is interesting in that we're here because of the right-of-way width waiver request, because not the full 45 was taken during that time. This is the site that is developed right along the road there. There are some issues which kind of are correlated to the conditions that staff is going to be recommending. There is a garage that goes right through the property line. The plat committee had discussed possibly demolishing it, doing a lot line shift, and the petitioner actually proposed that they combine the lot to the west and this proposed lot 1 together, and that would solve the issue. That also solves the issue of access that was brought up at the plat committee meeting. The driveway, you can see it there on the left-hand side of the screen. It's off-site. We would have required an easement of sorts, or this would have appeared to be a landlocked property. So we've gotten that one solved as well. To the right-hand side of the screen, there was a shed. We received it actually got a front yard setback variance. The permit is still active. They have not made payment on the permit itself, and it has not received an inspection, so condition 3 is going to be dealing with finishing that process up. And then number 4 deals with the septic system, and I will probably go into that detail later on in the process, in the program. The plat here is demonstrated on the left-hand side. It's a 2-lot subdivision. There's a table in the packet that kind of summarizes each lot, their sizes, and they do meet the minimum buildable area requirement. We have capacity letters. We do have driveway permits now for both. And yeah, so it's a good summary. This is the detailed of the plat, and I wanted to point out there's a turquoise square at the bottom there. That is a proposed septic. We do have a current septic permit on file. They have soil analysis backing it up. We do show an existing septic system, and I'll just kind of run through a timeline here. It's directly north of the house there. In 2014, the original mobile home was damaged and burnt down. As a part of the process to bring that structure back, there was a septic permit issued. Staff cannot find any record that it was ever installed. There is no other record of a septic on this site. I did have the health department go out and do an inspection. They did not find a failure, but right now there's really no record of a septic system, and we do have an approved location. So this will be an interesting topic when we get to the conditions, because I'm not sure that staff can require this. I think we would have to do it in a written commitment form, and that requires the agreement of the landowner. So we'll follow up on that one in a bit. I wanted to also point out on the right-hand side on lot 2, there's a 50-foot easement that was added. That will allow access to all of that buildable area and prevent any large driveway going down a steep slope later on as well. These are some photos from the site. The blue circle kind of points out that shed that was kind of a hang-up for a while that did receive a variance. And we're just hoping they can complete that permit application. The garage here in the gold is, that's the one that had the lot line through the middle of it, and they have chosen to combine those lots to make that not an issue anymore. And then this is the information on the waiver request from right-of-way. The 45 feet is required. Staff went through and it was evident that it was not a full 45 was dedicated back when they were doing the taking. And I think some of that has to do with the timing of when the thoroughfare plan was adopted in December 2019. And they were purchasing under the old thoroughfare plan. So Paul Satterley with the Highway Department did not see the need to take any additional right-of-way for this site. And we get back into the septic permits. So on the left-hand side is that original septic permit that was issued, but we don't have a construction report at the health department. And even if you look at the aerials, we don't see that Presby system typical PVC pipes sticking out of the ground. And then on the right-hand side is the repair septic permit that was issued for Lot 1. Lot 2 is a vacant lot currently and does have the septic permit, and I think someone's waiting to add a house to that lot soon, so they're hoping to see this petition go through. And then I included in the staff packet the email from the health department's environmental health specialist, just stating that they had been out on site, did not see any signs of failure, but also just there's no evidence that there's truly a permitted septic system on this site here. At the plat committee, there were 2 members that met on 12/15/2022. No vote was taken. They did raise several issues during that meeting, and many of those have been remedied through either the lot combination or addition of an easement. And then the septic, I was able to get more information and bring it to the Plan Commission here. So the staff recommendation of SMN-21-11 is to approve the subdivision based on the findings that the proposed preliminary plat meets the subdivision control ordinance, subject to the highway engineer and MS4 coordinator reports with the following 4 conditions. 1 is that drainage easements are approved by the MS4 coordinator. We just need a final step completed there. 2, submit a written commitment at the time of final platting or final plat filing to combine the deeds of Lot 1 of the Naylor-Shepherd minor subdivision and Tract 2 of the Sexton Sample Type E subdivision for planning and zoning purposes using zoning ordinance language 804-2B4. The written commitment shall be recorded prior to the recording of the final plat for the Naylor-Shepherd minor subdivision. Because this lot does not exist yet, we can't do this deed combination thing just yet. So this is just an assurance that they will do it once the subdivision is platted. Condition number 3, complete permit R-21-1281, which includes fee payment and any required inspections. That's for the little shed. And number 4, which might require some discussion, the petitioner submit a written commitment at the time of final plat filing that the septic system for proposed Lot 1 be installed and inspected by the health department prior to final plat recording. Staff also recommends approval of the right-of-way with the waiver request based on the findings of fact, and there is a waiver of final hearing requested. Any questions?
Councilwoman Munson has one.
Okay. Hi.
Yes, I hope this isn't a naive question. Would you go to the map on page 71 of the packet, please?
I'm gonna wonder, is it this one here? Okay. Oh, my packet does not have numbers.
It is,
Okay,
yes.
Great.
And if you would blow that up so people
I can try.
could see that. But my question has to do with Lot 2, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate relative to its creation, but I don't understand how it's going to have access to the road.
Great.
Could you explain that, please?
For Lot 2, yes. In fact, this also was a bit of a hang-up for a while because during this East Sample Road right-of-way taking and the approval of the design and the driveways themselves. I think the person who wants to develop Lot 2 was hoping to get a larger driveway, like a width, to be able to bring those construction vehicles, but that's not what it was approved for originally. So it's, he'll have to be careful when bringing large construction vehicles on site, I think. There is a culvert. You can kind of see the driveway in green. It's labeled gravel driveway. There's a large culvert that's through there now that's been constructed as a part of the East Sample Road approval. And then
I see it now.
okay, and the driveway is
on
going to
the
just
right.
snake all the way back towards that septic system location. This property had previously had a logging permit and been logged, so I think there are some established, old logging road trails back through there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to follow up on Cheryl Munson's question, I have a question about the easement and the roads. Will that be going over slopes over 15 degrees?
For the 50-foot easement? I don't believe so. There is some drainage concerns right through there, and that's why there's a large culvert. Should the owner of Lot 1 want to access that buildable area that runs through the middle of the property, I think they may have to think about, how they want to construct the driveway. It might require drainage pipe or culvert through there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are, okay, so you're saying for Lot 2, how's the driveway going to go? Yeah, I think it will go through steeper slopes. This is not eco, so there's not a restriction for that.
Oh.
They can access that buildable area through a steep slope. We also have some existing logging roads that are through there, I think, that are going to also, they're kind of established.
Okay. Are there other questions for staff from members? Mr. Garitas?
Just a couple quick ones. So number 3, on the conditions, R-21-1281, is that the inspection permit for the septic system?
The I'm going to get to those conditions.
Condition 3.
Yes, that's the residential accessory structure that was located on the property that needed an after-the-fact permit. It's that little shed that got a front yard setback variance.
Okay, thank you. And then on number 4, the existing septic system, or the application that you have, what year was that?
The existing septic,
I understood that you got an application for the original system, but you didn't have any indication it was
right,
how it was constructed or when it was constructed.
we required, when the first mobile home burnt down, and to replace that, we required to have that septic permit application as a part of the application process. We did not find any evidence that it was installed, and there is no prior records of a septic system even before that. So the original permit was from 2014, but we don't have any evidence that it was ever installed. And then they've gotten a new one that shows has soil samples behind it and a location approved.
Okay. But there's no indication of any failures out on the ground.
That is correct. That is what the health department, to be fair, it is kind of winter conditions, and I do believe someone is living there. I will also say that on East Sample Road, more towards the interstate, there are karst features. I don't see evidence of karst features on this property when looking at the contours, but they are in the nearby vicinity just down the road.
Actually, in the wintertime, what you might see is the water from the home could actually show more evidence than what you would see during other times of the year, because it's at a different temperature than the outside, but we can talk about that later. Thanks. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, yes, Commissioner Thomas?
I just have a quick follow-up question. If there's a driveway that slopes where the vehicle will be leaving the roadway and going upward at an angle, are those required to be paved? at the point where it's on a slope?
The only thing that we might require is a separate grading permit, and that might trigger an item, construction general permit, oh, I said it wrong, construction and stormwater general permit, if it disturbs more than an acre, and would require a more robust drainage and erosion plan. And some of those longer driveways, combined with the development of a house and a septic, do trigger that sometimes.
Yeah, okay. I guess this is just something that, as Ms. Clements was speaking, I thought of, which is, I'm familiar with a number of residences where there is a driveway that goes upward from the road, and it's gravel, and that gravel ends up on the roadway, and it's, yeah, and we should look at doing something, just
Yes,
a
I know
little
that
post-it for later.
there are
We
some
should look at requiring that sloped part be paved, because it causes a lot of damage.
I know that there were some former planning staff that had worked on proposed, had started crafting language to possibly have driveway standards outside of the eco area.
Yeah, outside of eco, yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Enright Randolph?
I just think it's a great discussion, and we should continue that, definitely. Also, it makes me think of kind of the development on the south side off of Walnut Street Pike, where they actually were constructing the ingress egress. Can't think of the name of the road. It's a new road. Sorry.
The Holland Drive?
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Where they started to build, and the slope was actually a little more steep than desired, which started to create a safety hazard, because the stormwater would run off and start to freeze as you would go out into the intersection, and we had to remedy that. So there's a lot of things that could be built into this conversation. So I think it does have a lot of merit. So.
Thank you, Mr. Enright Randolph. Well, if the petitioner's representative is here, Mr. Deckard, please come up to the podium and sign in. You'll have 15 minutes to talk with us about this project. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Deckard with Deckard Land Surveying. I'm here representing the petitioner here tonight. I see that we've got some new faces, and glad to meet you. Julie, you did bring up a good point about the driveways and about the gravel from the end of the driveways washing out into the road. In this example here, the topography that you're seeing on the plat doesn't really show a good depiction of what exists out there. If we can go back to the plat.
And I couldn't go look.
Right. So what we've got going on, where the gravel driveway leads to lot number 2, there's a super elevation to the roadway, which means that the roadway has been built up on the outside of the curve. So what we have going on is there's actually a slope going up to the road. And so you're going to have a slope coming down the hill, of course, and then there's going to be a little valley, and then there's going to be a slope leading up to the road. So there shouldn't be any gravel in this situation dumping out onto the new roadway.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So just giving you a little bit of a background, why I was hired to conduct this work was first and foremost, the motivating factor here in this case was financial hardship, and one of the reasons that they was selling lot number 2 off. So that being said, my client, I know, is agreeable to items numbers 1 through 3 here in the recommendation with the staff, but number 4 may very well lead to some very expensive hardships or exacerbate their current hardships to construct a new septic field at the price of between $16,000 to $18,000. But they do have an existing septic field, and it is working from what I can tell. I'm not an expert on septics, but when I was out in the field, I did not view any wastewater or gray water leaching to the surface on a rain day. That's really all I have to add to this petition here on my end, but if you guys have any questions that I might be able to help answer, I would be glad to answer these questions.
Yeah, well, if I could paraphrase, we are told that there's an existing septic, but we don't have proof of it, is that it?
Correct. Well, there is just no records at the health department. I had a conversation with Cheyenne Cox at the health department and with Ryan, former employee, and there's just no record of one ever being installed.
So could we change that condition to proof of installation and functionality? Or either the commitment is to install one if there isn't one there, or to be able to demonstrate there is one there and it's functional. I'd be happy with either, so.
And could I just add one thing? Did you check with the building department as well about the septic? Pardon me?
The health department, yeah. So the health department is not able to inspect systems that aren't permitted under the original code, and I think under the permit in 2014, the language was to go ahead and replace with a Presby at that time. So we gave them a building permit in 2014 with the understanding that a Presby would be installed. We have no record of that Presby being installed, and now we're back to another requirement of a septic permit for a subdivision, so they re-upped that permit. So it's been 2 times now that a Presby should be installed. But if there was a suggestion that maybe a private inspector, we've seen private inspections done to review a septic system functionality. I'm not sure if other people have ideas for how to word that condition, but.
Yeah, Mr. Enright Randolph has his hand raised.
So I'm just kind of following along, and I guess I thought, well, it was indicated that there's a functional septic out there that should be in good, or they're quoting or saying it's in good health or good shape. So I guess my question is, are they indicating that they did install a Presby in 2014 and when there's no record, or it's the original one prior to the 2014 request to install a new Presby system?
I believe I had a conversation with the owner of the property, and it was his parents that were the owners of the property at the time, and he has inherited this piece of property, and they seemed to recall that there had been just a conversation in the field with the health department that it maybe wasn't necessary. Again, this was in 2014, different staff, different, I was not at that inspection, obviously.
Okay, and I guess we've had this conversation, I think a few times even at the Plat Committee, where if there's a septic that's functioning well or good, adequately, that, I'm for allowing them to continue to have that use, identifying a proposed location to install a new one if it ever does fail, so we kind of have that redundancy built in. So I guess to Commissioner Thomas's point, I would support something as far as if they can confirm there is a functioning septic out there. So that's kind of where my position is on that. One other thought I had of uncovering records, and this is when I was working closer with the health department with some of their septic installation, is a lot of the installers keep documents. So if you can try to figure out who installed it, they might have some records of the installation work that was conducted. But, if you date too far back, it's kind of hard to find those documents and records. But that's kind of another thought there, to try to find some records, is trying to figure out who installed it and reaching out to them.
I really don't have an idea of who may have installed the septic field, but like Tammy, that's the same story that I had received as well, is there was a field meeting of sorts, and they continued the use of the existing septic field. Now, as far as functionality of the existing field, it appears to be functioning in my eyes. However, you know, I'm not the expert here, and it's my understanding that there was an additional inspection after we had applied for a new septic permit, and what was the results of that?
Right, that email is in the packet. It's the last page of this staff report. And I'm looking to see if I can paraphrase it. There was no record of an installed septic system on this property. Talks about the one permit from 2014 and the active permit. The homeowner stated the existing septic system was located to the north, directly behind the house. There were no visible signs of failure seen on the site visit on January 5th, 2023.
Margaret?
Yes, Mr. Garitas.
So in 14, when did the new septic ordinance come into play? We used to have repair permits, and what would happen is if someone had to come out and do a septic repair, or the health department would physically inspect it, and if the system was good the way it was functioning with the repairs that the installer was making at the time, it would become a repair, not a new system.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if that isn't what happened at this time. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because there's an existing home, an existing septic field, and the health department's been out there twice and not seen any indication of failure. And I'm kind of piggybacking on where I think Julie might be going with it. And that, actually what Tron said, that 9 years ago, that, you know, that there's been a lot of changes in the health department, and that's the way that's the way the process was done. Now, paperwork wise, I don't have anything to offer.
Yeah, the packet does include the repair septic permit application from 2014, so you can see some of the details within there, and the person who inspected it, some of their notes. And then the current one that was issued in 2021 is also a repair septic permit.
Yes, Mr. Morris.
I guess I'm concerned because we know the house burned and we know the existing septic is still in use. So it doesn't appear clear to me if the existing septic is adequate for the house size, because we don't know if there's additional bedrooms that have been added in the new property, additional bathrooms, or if it's the same size that it was before.
That's a good point. So, Mr. Deckard, did you?
I have no idea what the mobile home that existed on the site, how many bedrooms.
The 2014 permit, I mean, we received this 2014 septic permit for 3 bedrooms, and I do know that the plans for the new mobile home were 3 bedrooms. I can't recall how many bedrooms were in the previous mobile home that was destroyed by fire.
I guess I feel comfortable with, we've been out there twice, we've inspected it, we've not seen any failures, we know the area upon which the septic is. They have filed for an application to have the inspection done, and I have done subdivisions where we've had to go out and do an inspection for an existing system, and I've seen it to where they've had to replace the system, but I can only think of 2 instances where that's occurred, and one of them's out on State Route 45. I mean, I would feel comfortable that this septic system has been reviewed and looked at, and there's not any indication of failure, and the number of bedrooms that are with the home now match what the permit was for.
Is there further discussion from members of the Plan Commission? We can open this up to the public. Mr. Enright Randolph? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Deckard. Are there members of the public here who would like to speak in favor of this petition? If you're here in person, come to the podium. If you're online, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. We don't see anyone.
I do see one person with their hand raised, Chris
Okay.
Walls.
Let's see, for the person,
Chris, you should be able to unmute Mr. Walls.
Mr. Walls, yes, you will see a button on your screen that says, click here to unmute, or you have been unmuted. Okay, Mr. Walls, please, you have 3 minutes to talk with us about what you'd like to say.
I apologize, that was raised by mistake.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Walls. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, raise your hand, press *9, or come to the podium. We see no one. So back to members of the Plan Commission for further discussion and/or a motion.
I can make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Garatas.
In the matter of SMN-21-11, this is the Naylor Shepherd two-lot minor subdivision. I move that we approve the minor subdivision with the right-of-way waiver and the waiver of second hearing, with the conditions that staff has listed, and this is based on findings of fact, the staff report, the highway department, and the MS4 operator. 1, the drainage easements are approved by the MS4 coordinator. 2, the petitioner shall submit written commitment at the time of the final plat filing to combine the deeds of Lot 1 of the Naylor Shepherd Minor Subdivision and Tract 2 of the Sexton Sample Type E Administrative Subdivision for planning and zoning purposes using zoning ordinance language 804-2, parens B, parens 4. The written commitment shall be recorded prior to the recording of the final plat for the Naylor Shepherd Minor Subdivision. And 3, that the petitioner complete permit R-21-1281, which includes payment for any required inspections. And that's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so please call the roll.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Naylor Shepherd Minor Preliminary Plat Subdivision for 2 lots, right-of-way with waiver, as well as a waiver of final hearing, with the 3 conditions in the staff report labeled 1, 2, and 3, as stated by Commission Member Mr. Garatas. A vote in favor is a vote to approve with those stated conditions. Tron and Wright Randolph?
I guess I have a clarification question, if it's appropriate. So what I'm hearing is we have no indication that there is a septic tank out there, like definitive understanding.
I mean, I don't want to speak for the health department and what they saw. I can only go by the email that they said, and that was included in the packet. And that they were told it was located north of the house, and that there were no visible signs of failure.
I believe Mr. Deckard has, if you would come to the microphone, Mr. Deckard. Sorry, Mr. Enright Randolph.
No, absolutely. It was a late question.
Yeah, thank you.
I did witness a septic tank just to the north of the home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'll go ahead and vote yes.
thank you, Mr. Deckard.
Bernie Garatas?
Yes.
Jeffrey Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes?
Okay, motion carries 7-0 with those conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, or new business, we have rezone, REZ-22-10, Pedigo Bay rezone from Forest Reserve to suburban residential. This is a preliminary hearing. Waiver of the final hearing has been requested by the petitioner concerning 3.77 plus or minus acre parcel in Clear Creek Township, Section 35, at 2600 East Pedigo Bay Drive. And the owner is the Pedigo Bay Homeowners Association. And Ms. Crecelius, if you would please review this with us.
Absolutely, thank you. So the petition site is in total approximately 6 acres. That's the entirety of the parcel. It's located in Clear Creek Township. They're requesting to amend the zoning map from Forest Reserve to suburban residential for the portion of the common area that's located on the north side of Pedigo Bay. It would be approximately 3.77 acres. So currently this is platted as common area for within the Pedigo Bay subdivision. This is one parcel that is approximately 6 acres. It is divided into 3 pieces, but is one lot of record. It is currently zoned Forest Reserve and Agricultural Rural Reserve. This common area was platted for a few different reasons. There are multiple karst features that are platted as protected sinkhole conservancy areas, and also there were platted easements for septic systems. The septic systems were not pursued, and in 2004, the Homeowners Association pursued rezoning 1.6 acres of the common area to Agricultural Rural Reserve to accommodate a private packaged treatment plant. So the intention of the petitioners is to perform a lot line adjustment with the properties directly to the north of the common area. So this area is, in layman's terms, feels as though it's these petitioners' yards, but legally it's platted within the Pedigo Bay as common area. So if this rezone is approved from FR to SR, the petitioners are going to pursue a lot line adjustment to absorb that area directly in front of the properties. So all the lots that would be involved with this lot line adjustment are serviced by that treatment plant on the common area. So Elevate GIS does show these parcel lines as being off, as you can see the aerial imagery and how Pedigo Bay and East Sailor Lane is. So please note that. Here's a pictometry photo of kind of just the general area and the intersection that we're looking at. So the Elevate's pink parcel line box, as we can see, it's skewed. So this is that pink parcel line that's shown would be the 1.6 acres that would be over the water treatment plant, which you can see visually they're surrounded by evergreens. Okay, so here this kind of illustrates the property that we're looking at. So we're looking at 5 legal lots of record that are all long and narrow, that are not within Pedigo Bay subdivision, with their kind of respective yards within the common area. So right now, one lot of the Cosner Fish property is involved with this kind of intended rezone and then lot line adjustment. So here is the Pedigo Bay plat. This is just one portion. And here we can see the common area, the intended septic easements, the platted sinkholes, and some older utility and access easements. This is the Cosner Fish Type E. So the property on the right owned by Cosner and Fish are both involved with this lot potential rezone and lot line adjustment. So both of these properties would have to be vacated from this subdivision. So here's the petitioner's kind of eventual site plan for that lot line transfer. So this gives us a better idea without that skew between aerial imagery of what that common area is and what their actual lot lines, what they'd be absorbing. So if this is approved, they'll pursue an amendment to the Pedigo Bay subdivision. It would be an amendment to the preliminary plat to remove the 3.77 acres that are a part of the common area. This would be a Plan Commission decision. The second step would be a 5-lot type E administrative subdivision with a plat vacation to adjust those lot lines and to vacate out of the Cosner Fish type E. And this would be an administrative review by staff. So I'm just going to go through a few site photos. So this is from East Sailor Lane, kind of looking northwest. This is looking at kind of the larger portion of the common area and the home's setback. Okay, so at Plan Review Committee in December, we had a good amount of questions to pursue. So one of the concerns the Plan Review Committee brought up was a concern of could this property could be developed further if they are rezoned from FR to SR. The FR zone has a larger lot size requirement versus SR, so SR has a 1 acre minimum. Because all of these properties would be partially located in the eco area 2. There is a code within the eco area chapter 825-4 that requires maximum residential density be allowed at 1 unit per 5 acres. So this would effectively prevent any future development of this lot if the transfer area is pursued. One of the questions was who maintains the common area, and this is maintained by HOA. We provided a use table for SR and FR, which would be Exhibit 5, included site photos, and then we addressed another concern that I'll get to here in just a moment. So these are some of the transfer areas. There are 5 lots involved. 4 are developed, 1 is not developed. So they've got a combination of easements or carsts, which I've listed below, that's on the common area and platted, so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of acreage is being transferred, what they currently have, and what they would be getting. So one of the questions that staff had during the Plan Review Committee was, so currently the common area is split zoned between Forest Reserve and Agricultural Rural Reserve. The rezone request is for the entire area that is on the north side of Pedigo Bay Drive to be rezoned from SR. One property owner that technically has a portion of that common area in front of their property is not involved with this potential land transfer. Because the minimum lot size for AgRR is 2.5, the minimum lot size for FR is 5, and the minimum lot size for SR is 1. If we rezoned this small portion that would not be transferred in the future, we would be increasing the nonconformity of the common area based on minimum lot sizes and zonings. So staff will be recommending that the rezone is only pursued for the area that's actually intended for a future type E. So staff recommends forwarding a positive recommendation for the rezone request from Forest Reserve and Environmental Constraints Overlay Area 1 to Suburban Residential and Environmental Constraints Overlay Area 1 for the 3.7 acres based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer reports, and that this recommendation does not include the 0.5 acres of platted common area located directly south of 2589 East Pedigo Bay Road. This property isn't involved with the future lot line adjustment, and maintaining the FR zone in this area does not increase the nonconformity of the remaining common area, and there is a waiver of final hearing requested.
Okay, do members of the Plan Commission have questions for staff? Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah, so this has become what was not very confusing. This has become confusing for me, and I'm sorry to say that, because I understood it before, And I appreciated that you looked at whether or not another subdivision could take place if this property were added on. I saw that in the packet. That was clearly explained in the packet. So the site marked Ag RR is outlined in red on page 83, as though it is part of this. And you just said it's not part of this petition.
So the common area is all one lot of record.
I'm sorry?
The common area, these three portions are all one lot of record?
Are all? One lot of record. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm harder of hearing, I guess. Okay, so obviously those other two pieces that are showing on page 83 in the map, the other two pieces that are in the purple, obviously nothing can be done with those properties. They're just added on to the existing lots in pieces and making those lots kind of larger. But the package plant is part of that common area and Ag RR?
That's correct.
And so even though it's 3 acres, because there's a package plant there, that can't become a separate lot that can be built upon.
So the whole area is a total of 6 acres, and the portion zoned Ag RR is already non-conforming. It doesn't meet the 2.5 for that zone, and it is technically developed with the private package plant.
Okay. I just think the zoning is not correct, and I don't know what zoning it needs to be, but Ag RR isn't it, because it's not.
We agree with you. Staff had quite a few discussions about what the best approach would be here, and there was not a perfect solution. And the idea that we pursued here is that we would be removing, increasing the conformity of this already issue. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, these areas that are marked out in red on page 83 are all commonly held, but the parts of it that are close, the part that is closest to the lake will actually be subdivided to add to the existing properties that are in orange, that are shaded in orange on page 83. But the other two pieces, the one marked Ag RR and the one marked Forest Reserve in purple, will remain commonly held property of the HOA.
That is correct.
And will not be developable.
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Who owns the package plant? Does the homeowners association?
Yes, it does.
Then it should be common area, it seems to me. If the homeowners association owns the package plant, that's commonly owned, and it needs to be commonly maintained.
They do. They do own it.
Yes, so, okay.
Common area, this will be divided up.
Oh, yes.
For those other rights. Common area. That's what she just explained.
Okay, but it's still, just because it's Ag RR doesn't mean that it's not common area. Okay, it's just that the nonconformity is the smallest parsimonious amount of land. You reduce the nonconformity by spot zoning that Ag RR, right?
If that rezone was proposed now from FR to Ag RR for the package plant, it would not be conforming and we would not be able to pursue it. We would have to pursue rezoning the whole common area. So.
Okay, it's a technical thing. Okay, any other questions for staff? Mr. Garitas? No? Yes.
So your drawing right there, proposed and recommended, and the petitioner is proposing the all yellow north of the road. And staff, because of the one landowner pulling out of the deal, is saying that the purple needs to stay as it is and not turn yellow.
Yes, and staff is also saying that because the common area is already non-conforming, split zoned, and we would be, if we went with what they're requesting, we would make it split zone 3 with 3 zones, non-conforming.
Okay, so the reason why staff is recommending, and you may have answered this question, but I'm trying to follow it. So the reason staff is recommending that it's not all yellow and we've got yellow and purple on the north side of the road is because the landowner closest to the lake isn't assuming the property. So is anybody, and this is probably a question for the petitioner, the petitioner's representative, is there a reason why the fish, I think it's the fish property, I mean, anybody can assume that part of that lot through the lot line adjustment process. So my question is, can the fish, and the reason I'm saying that is because it's the adjacent property. I don't know any of these good folks, but fish, lot number A1A3, assume that section.
They could technically, yes.
Yeah, but it has a sinkhole on it. They probably don't want to take the risk.
Well,
you know?
but, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But that was it, thanks.
So,
Thanks, Ann.
if Mr. Deckard, are you representing for the, great. Well, come and answer our questions and tell us what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Okay.
And thank you for your detailed report. Very nicely done. So getting back to just the gist of it, you know, the HOA has agreed to sell the adjacent landowners part of the common area. And the purpose of this is so that they can extend their property lines from their current status out to the road, so that they essentially have the road frontage and the yard in front of their houses. Now, Bernie, I don't know that I have the answer to the fish question. Could it be done? Yes. Now, whether Mr. Fish is willing to accept that responsibility of that additional 0.58 acres, I do not know. Some of the things that did come up during the course of some of the survey work, there is a shared driveway between Fish and Mr. Spieth, and we have or will be platting an easement across that shared driveway. And there is a driveway maintenance and agreement in the works between Spieth and the Fish property. Trying to think if I've got anything else here that I can add that may be some clarification. Oh, and as far as any of the underlying easements, single conservancy areas that are affected by this common area, that will all remain. The small portion that is in front of the Spieth property that we've been talking about, the small area, whether it should remain in the forest reserve or be rezoned to SR, I don't believe that the homeowners association has a preference one way or the other whether this gets rezoned to either respective zones.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deckard. Councilmember Munson, did you have a question for Mr. Deckard?
Yes, I do, and just a question generally. Would the rezone allow any additional residential construction?
This is not the intent of it, no. I mean, we're not looking at wanting to create new house sites on this. They're just basically wanting to have this grass area as a yard area now.
Okay.
Or continue to use it as their yard area,
right.
Basically.
Use it as their yard area and
yes.
And take it away from the responsibility of the homeowners association.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Deckard. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please make yourself known, either online, on phone, or here in the room. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please make yourself known. We see none. Back to members of the commission for further discussion and or a motion. You might want to wait for the bells to stop. Okay, so if there's someone who would like to make a motion on this or further discuss it?
I can do it.
Thank you, Mr. Caritas.
And this is the first hearing, correct? Yeah. Okay, so in case number, REZ-22-10, this is a rezone request from Forestry Reserve and Eco 1 to suburban residential and Eco 1 with a waiver of final hearing requested. I move that we forward this petition on to the Executive Board of County Commissioners with a positive recommendation for the rezone based on the findings of fact as found in the staff report, the highway engineer and the MS4 operators conditions as may be within it, with a recommendation that, excuse me just a second. Well, I'll just read it. Staff recommends forwarding a positive recommendation for the rezone request from Forest Reserve to environmental constraints overlay 1 to suburban residential and environmental constraints overlay area 1 for 3.7 acres based on the finding of fact, subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineers reports. This recommendation does not include the 0.58 acres of platted common area located directly south of 2589 East Pedigo Bay Road. This property isn't involved with the future lot line adjustment maintaining the FR zone in this area and does not increase the nonconformity of the remaining common area. Does that match staff's recommendation? Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send a favorable recommendation to the County Commissioners for REZ-22-10 for 3.7 acres from Forest Reserve Eco 1 to Suburban Residential Eco 1. A vote in favor is a vote to send forward a favorable recommendation. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Cheryl Munson?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes?
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay, well, we're moving right along, and if it's okay with everyone, if there's no objection, I'd like to combine the next 3 cases in Steinsville under the same discussion, and that would involve item number 3 on our agenda under new business, which is rezone 22-11A, Steinsville rezone from general business to high density residential. This is a preliminary hearing, and a waiver of final hearing has been requested concerning 610 parcels totaling 1.5 plus or minus acres in Bean Blossom Township, and at 8126, 8153, 8171, 8182, 8248, and 8289 West Main Street. And the next item that we'll be discussing would be Steinsville rezone from general business to high density residential, and that's rezone 22-11B. This is also the preliminary hearing, and the waiver of final hearing is being requested concerning 4 parcels totaling 0.64 plus or minus acres in Bean Blossom Township at 8153 West Main Street. And the third item in Steinsville is item number 5 on our agenda under new business, and that's rezone 22-11C, a Steinsville rezone from Ag RR to institutional public. This is also a preliminary hearing, and the waiver of final hearing has been requested concerning a 0.60 acre portion of 2 parcels totaling 4.14 plus or minus acres in Bean Blossom Township, Section 16 at 7951 West Main Street. So, Mr. Myers, we look forward to hearing about this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize, the first item, REZ-22-11A, that is supposed to be 6 parcels total. So I will get into the details about why each of these items are divided the way that they are, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay. So there are 3 rezone petitions wrapped up into this one rezone package. We have Part A, West Main Street, which consists of 6 parcels, as you stated, in Section 17 of Bean Blossom Township. These parcels are currently operating as residential uses. Part B, vacant, that consists of 4 vacant parcels in Section 17 of Bean Blossom Township. And then Part C is the fire station. It's 2 parcels in Section 16 of Bean Blossom Township, approximately 0.6 acres, and they are all being rezoned. Well, the first 2, Part A and Part B, are being rezoned from general business to high-density residential. The intention behind this rezone request is to provide for the appropriate zoning designation to serve the existing majority residential nature of the subject area and provide for more future residential growth. And Part C, the purpose behind this rezone from agricultural rural reserve to institutional/public, or IP, is to clean up the split zoning in the area and have a reduced lot size requirement to accommodate a future subdivision petition placing the fire station on its own lot of record from the former school property. All right. So if the rezones for Part A or Part B are denied, the petitioner may continue to operate the properties under the GB zone, and most of the existing residential uses will remain pre-existing non-conforming. If the rezone request is approved, the petitioner will have the more suitable zoning designation for residential development for both Parts A and Parts B. And if the rezone is denied for Part C, the fire station may continue to operate under the Ag-RR zone because it is a permitted use in that zone, but the property itself would remain split zoned, and the fire station would be required to have at least 2.5 acres for the Ag-RR portion of their proposed lot. If the rezone is approved for Part C, then the subdivision petition will be submitted sometime in the future. The split zoning will be cleaned up, and they'll be able to operate under the new IP zoning district. Okay, so a little bit of summary and background, as was requested by the Plan Review Committee regarding the current status of the zoning here in Steinsville, where it along Main Street is commercial instead of residential. So the planning process employed in the development of this area began in 1996 with the adoption of the comprehensive plan. A lot of these principles were formed in the foundation of the development for the designated community planning effort, which began in late 2004. Before its final adoption, the plan was subject to public hearings before the Planning Commission in October 2005 and was ultimately decided on in December of 2005 by the County Commissioners. Now, in March of 2010, Monroe County and the town of Steinsville entered into an interlocal agreement regarding planning and zoning authority, and the Steinsville Rural Community Plan was updated to reflect the inclusion of the town's properties under the county's planning efforts. So in 2010, here are some diagrams that were utilized in the staff report and the subsequent planning meetings. You'll note on the left side of the screen was the existing land use at that time. The subject properties all along Main Street, there's a number of them. There's 10 total parcels along Main Street. Again, 6 of them currently residential and 4 of them are vacant. You'll see them highlighted in the next slide. But you can see here in the existing land use back in 2010, most of it was residential with only a few specks of commercial in the red. And then the proposed zoning changed for that district or that area, and it all changed along West Main Street to the commercial. So there's a little bit of background as to how it got to being commercial in the first place. Okay, so here we have the current zoning map, and the highlighted parcels are in the bright blue. Again, these parcels along West Main Street down here, these are all the parcels of Part A and Part B. And then over here on the right side of the map, in these larger 2 parcels, those are the parcels involved in Part C, which is with regard to the fire station. Here we have an aerial pictometry with some address points identified. The stars, the yellow stars, identify the properties that are currently vacant. And the remaining properties that are highlighted in green, those are properties that are involved in Part A, and they are all confirmed to have a residential type use active. I will note 8248 West Main Street, they do have are currently operating with a home-based business of a daycare. So they are living out of that home as well. And so because they're in the general business zoning district currently, there's been some delay in getting the proper permitting finalized. So changing their designation back to high-density residential will provide for the permissions to operate that property as a residence and also have a home daycare there. That is one specific case where this rezone petition will impact a property owner in this area. Okay, so this table here, it's also in your packet, just kind of gives you a better breakdown of how the parts A and part B's properties are divided. Again, the blue here is part A, and those are all currently residential, and then the reds are properties that are currently vacant. Okay, here we have the part C of the petition, and this is where the fire station will be going. So this red polygon you see here, that is the proposed configuration of the subdivision that will eventually come through. You can see the fire station here, this gray building right along the road. There will also be a need for a road with or right-of-way with waiver request at that time, but basically they're wanting to clean up this zoning, make it all institutional public. That will provide the proper zoning and clean up any split zoning. There was some conversation during the Plan Commission admin meeting as well as the Plan Review Committee about including the parcels across the street because the fire station currently utilizes these parcels as kind of an auxiliary parking area to help the trucks, I imagine, turn around and other vehicles to park there. However, it was determined by staff and other additional communication in the Plan Commission admin meeting that that area can be caught up in the CDO rezoning, so we don't have to necessarily include that in this petition. If we did want to include it into this petition, it would delay the meetings because additional notice would have to be met and all of those types of requirements. Here we have a couple of exhibits that are included in the packet from the surveyor that's involved with that future subdivision of the fire station. So if you need any questions answered regarding this, we can refer to these. And then, of course, in here I have included the essentially the consent letters for the town of Steinsville and those individuals that are all owning those properties that are involved in the rezone request. So I'm going to keep clicking through here. It's a variety of signed pages. Some will have their signatures on one, and then they might not appear on the other one. But yeah, so I will now take any questions right after I talk about our recommendation, which is to forward this with a positive recommendation to the Monroe County Board of Commissioners based on the petition's compatibility with Monroe County Comprehensive Plan. And yeah, I'll take any questions.
Okay, do members of the Plan Commission have questions for Mr. Myers? Mr. Garitas?
Quick question. Drew, on table 8, on exhibit 4 for uses permitted in the HR zone, that's, I think, page 136. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, agricultural use, what is the table telling us?
1 second, let me get to it. You said the agricultural rural reserve zone?
Yeah, what, just in general, exhibit 4, what is that table telling us?
Exhibit 4 is telling you the permitted uses in the high-density residential zoning district.
Okay, so public and semi-public uses have an intensity intermediate intensity? Is that what that I is?
So the I is just, it's just another identifier that says just intensity. So public and semi-public is a category, as is agricultural uses is a category, and it's just reiterating the zoning districts in each of those.
Okay, so public and semi-public is allowed in the HR zone.
Public and semi-public is a category, and the uses below that are within that category.
Okay. Okay.
It's a subheading.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Myers? Well, is the petitioner here? And, oh yes, please come to the podium, and you have 15 minutes to, you're Darla, right? Yes. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for coming. I love your town, love the town of Steinsville.
Good evening, my name is Darla Brown and I represent the town of Steinsville. And we have a couple of the town council members with us here tonight. We have Kim Cunningham and Scott McLaughlin, and we also have Lois Purcell, who's the clerk treasurer. And I would be happy to answer any questions, but I believe that the planning department's 40-page report on this is pretty thorough, and as noted by the planning department, the purpose of this petition is to just, I don't want to say housekeeping matter, but it's to clean up the zoning or to request a zone that meshes with what the property is actually being used for. So as noted, the 6 properties are residential. The 4 properties that are vacant are in what is clearly a residential area. The fire station right now is encroaching on the town's property. Before that, the property belonged to the school corporation, and so the town intends in the not too distant future to file a petition for subdivision and to give that part that's in your packet, that's shown on the packet, the drawing that Doug Graham did, to give that to the fire department so that we can get that whole thing cleaned up. So that's the purpose of this petition.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Enright Randolph?
Just one question, and I just wanted to make sure we had your point of view. With the fire station and that parking across the road to the west for auxiliary parking, is that what you said? Are you comfortable with us addressing that at a later date as far as Drew kind of went over earlier?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we got your feedback. Thank you.
Are there further questions from members of the commission? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you for coming.
For your time.
Thank you. Are there members of the public who are here who would like to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand on Zoom or press *9. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? If so, please raise your hand, come to the podium, or press *9 on your phone. Okay, seeing none, I come back to members of the commission for a motion or further discussion.
I guess I just want to get a sense of where my colleagues are on this board regarding the limitations this places on potential for additional commercial growth in Steinsville. So I was just wondering if anybody had thoughts on that. Something we talked about last time.
Yes, Mr. Garatas?
Yeah, that was why I was asking about the table, because I wanted to make it sure everybody understood it the way I did. So the way I see this is for, we can look at all the different categories of uses. So if you go to business and personal services, the intensity, bed and breakfast is low, it's permitted in the HR zone. Historic adaptive reuse, this is table 4. It doesn't have an intensity, but it's permitted. Real estate sales office, tourist home or cabin, and then you go down to retail wholesale trade, which is the next category in the HR zone. To me, there's a lot of business uses that may be under the HR zone, because that was something I think that we initially brought up at the PRC, wasn't it, Julie? Yeah, because we're looking at growing something in Steinsville. It's going to make this desirable. And if it's all residential, then there's no business anchor there. And are we taking the business anchor away by making it the zone instead of general business, which is a very liberal zone as far as what you can do business-wise in the county? The question I would have for staff is, when we get to the CDO phase, what are the possibilities of mixed uses? Because I don't know that right now we can do mixed uses under the current ordinance. Is that correct or not correct without a different petition? So if I wanted to have a lot, and I wanted to have a residential on the upstairs and a business or a restaurant or something downstairs that meets the table, can I do that without going back through a process with the county?
So under the county development ordinance, we're proposing a new zone called rural community that's going to allow residential and commercial and sort of combine HR and some parts of GB, more likely LB, together so that people will be able to have an opportunity to live and work on the same parcel. So we think it'll probably provide the flexibility that they're seeking and possibly allow for commercial uses to transition for some of these vacant properties, depending on which demand is favorable there.
Okay, so that's where I thought that what we were doing here was probably going to be acceptable, because the one petition I had, the one lot I had a problem with was right next to the store. And we don't want to, and I think I'm hearing staff say that this rezone will not prohibit owners of those lots from having, by zoning, a business or a use that's currently allowed in the HR.
Right, but they couldn't do the mixed use until we finish the CDO.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
No, that's right. And then is there anything that we can do now that can help that at this meeting, or if we have to, at the next meeting? And it's changing the petition, I don't know, that would be the question.
So I think Drew has it separated out into A, B, and C, and if you would like to vote on it separately, is B the vacant parcels?
Yes.
Okay.
A is Main Street, right?
A is Main Street with houses on them currently used as housing. B is vacant on Main Street, not used as anything yet, and then C is the fire station.
Jeff's got a question. Jeff has a question.
Oh, Mr. Morris, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
That's all right.
That's okay.
I've started out conflicted on my opinion on this, because when I read over the reason why it was zoned general business in the first place, it made sense to me that it was providing an easy opportunity for somebody to come in and build a business on one of these lots on the main street in Steinsville. I know there's 4 businesses for sale for $1. But that's going to take somebody with a lot of money and a lot of vision. I don't think the building even has a roof on it, at least over part of it. So in essence, if we approve this, there's not going to be an easy way for somebody to come in and start a business there along Main Street. I think the one thing, I'm conflicted on the vacant properties probably more than anything else. I think it makes sense, as the petitioner said, to clean up the zoning for the places where there's already an existing house. I think the one thing that's leaning me to vote in favor of this is the fact that this was in 1996 when this was put into place for general business, and that was almost 30 years ago, and nothing has developed there. So from that standpoint, I'm thinking maybe it's time to just go ahead and zone this high-density residential to kind of match what the community already is set up as.
Okay. And you know, in the past, I've brought up how concerned I am about how Steinsville has precious night sky. And, but I've asked the community to come forward if they were interested to do more to preserve that, and the community really hasn't, you know. So because of that, I also, if the town is here and they would like, they think this would be in their best interests, I'm persuaded by their elected officials and you know, the people who serve the good town of Steinsville, you know, to go ahead and do what they think they can make the most of. So, yes.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up question. So all of these parcels are owned by the town at this moment?
No.
No, their
No.
ownership is varied.
Okay.
There is a parcel that is owned by the town. It's 8153 West Main Street. And then there's a parcel that's also owned by the Board of Commissioners and a parcel owned by Bloomington Restorations Incorporated. That last one, I will say that there is intention to build a home there by Bloomington Restorations.
Right.
And that is one of the current vacant properties.
It's just strange to have this as the petitioner. I guess I'm just trying to understand how this all transpired, because when I first started on this plan commission, so that'd have been like 2009 or so, we had a meeting in Steinsville, and they agreed to follow our planning and zoning. So it just seems odd to have this as a Steinsville petition. I'm just trying to figure out how that all happened, because it's very unusual. Why isn't the owner of the parcel asking, right? And I know about the county's property. I'm well aware of that. We've gone through that already and said, yeah, you can do that. But yeah, I'm just curious about how that happened, because that's odd.
I think it's a little complicated because of the interlocal agreement, but from my understanding, it was essentially members of the town council or their representatives, and just communication with the members that live there and these parcels in question, choosing the town as their representative.
Right. And nobody who is included, they've all been notified, right? So if
Yes.
they had a remonstrance to make, they could have made it, and they have not.
Yes, all
Okay, I just
all
wanna verify
petitioners that were listed also received their own notice letters.
Got it.
We made sure to
That's-
do that. Yes.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Council Member Munson?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that I love Steinsville like everybody up here does, but I'm thrilled to see so many people from Steinsville work on this and come forward with a plan for your community. And I think this is a great step going forward. And it seems like there are no real questions, so of course I'm going to be in favor of this. But I'll just tell you, I worked as a volunteer for Bloomington Restorations to help restore and prepare to develop properties in Steinsville. And you have a great partner there. So congratulations to all also on working with Bloomington Restorations.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you for adding that. So with that, is there a motion? Would someone like to make a motion?
I can do one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Veritas.
Okay, if this will work with staff. Case number REZ-22-11 that incorporates all the addresses listed in the staff report with REZ-2211 A, B, and C. Does that work for you guys? Thank you. I move that we forward this with the waiver of second hearing to the Executive Board of Monroe County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation subject to findings of fact as listed in the staff report, highway engineer, and the MS4 operator.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve REZ-22-11A, 11B, and 11C, which are the parcels listed in the staff report. A vote in favor is a vote to send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for a final vote. Cheryl Munson,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Jeffrey Morris.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming tonight and for sharing with us your plans. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the last case of the evening, And that's another rezone 22-12, Rolfson rezone from RE1 to Ag RR. This is a preliminary hearing, and the waiver of the final hearing has been requested concerning 19.34 plus or minus acre parcel in Bloomington Township, Section 8 at 4851 North Kinzer Pike. And this is, the owner is Brawley Investment Group LLC. So Mr. Myers, we look forward to hearing about this from you.
Thank you. And I'll make one correction. The owner has shifted to the now petitioner. They were in a purchase agreement before the meeting tonight, and I did not update the ownership. So the ownership has changed from Brawley Investment Group LLC to the petitioner. Okay. So this petition site is one parcel totaling 19.341 acres, Bloomington Township at 4851 North Kinzer Pike. The petitioner is proposing to amend the zoning map from Estate Residential, or RE1, to Agricultural Rural Reserve, or AG-RR. The petitioner's intention behind the rezone request is to provide the appropriate zoning designation to establish a winery on the property. The land use of winery is not permitted in the RE1 zoning district, but it is a permitted use in the AG-RR zone. If the rezone request is approved by the county commissioners, the petitioner intends to complete the planning process for the establishment of a winery on the property. All applicable site plan requirements for a winery, as well as the special conditions outlined in Chapter 802 for the winery, must be met by the proposed change of use on the property. Typically, site plan review for properties and projects is completed at staff level. If the rezone is denied, the petitioner may continue to operate the property as a single-family residence, which was the previous use, or may pursue any of the available uses as outlined in Chapter 833 of the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance for the RE1 zone, as long as any special conditions can be met. So Chapter 802 has winery defined. It's an agricultural processing plant used for the commercial purpose of processing grapes, other fruit products, or vegetables to produce wine or similar spirits. Processing includes wholesale sales, crushing, fermenting, blending, aging, storage, bottling, administrative office functions for the winery, and warehousing. Retail sales and tasting facilities of wine and related promotional items may be permitted as part of the winery operations. And as it is subject to special condition number 53, which states only permitted on lots 5 acres or greater in the AG-RR, CR, and FR zoning districts. I also included the definition of agricultural rural reserve zoning district here. I will not read it word for word, but we can come back to reference it if there are any questions about its character. Okay, so here we have the zoning map in the top left-hand corner. You'll note that it's currently zoned RE1. A special note, the zoning map wouldn't show the newest update, but this large parcel directly to the west, it's about over 100 acres, I believe, was recently rezoned to AG-RR for a subdivision petition. So this large parcel that I'm encircling with the cursor here, that actually should be the dark green AG-RR district. And then the comprehensive plan, the right map, in the right-hand corner, the designation is farm and forest, similarly to the properties to the east, north, and west. And then, of course, to the south, you can note that the Makua Rural Transition designation applies. Okay, so the property receives access via North Kinzer Pike currently. That's where the existing driveway is for the former home site. The home has been demolished by the petitioner. And then there's also frontage along West Bell Road along the south here. You'll note that there is no real slope issues with the property. No sinkholes can be identified, at least with these contour lines, and there is no FEMA floodplain or eco area. We have some comments from the departments that typically provide information regarding these types of petitions. Stormwater actually had no comments at the time because most of their comments will come through the commercial site plan stage. So when the designs are submitted for that, the MS4 coordinator will review those and provide comments and feedback. The highway department did have some discussions with the petitioner. The highway engineer prefers the primary driveway come off of West Bell Road, and that driveway should be located at least 300 feet from the intersection of North Kinzer Pike. There was also a separate conversation later on where the petitioner where the petitioner described the intent to have the primary drive off of North Kinzer Pike, if that would be acceptable to the highway department, and the highway engineer did provide comments that that would be acceptable as long as it be located at least 150 feet from West Bell Road intersection and further if possible. Overall, the petitioner was asked to submit a right-of-way activity permit application to provide the highway department an opportunity to evaluate site distance requirements for the proposed entrance in more detail. And as of this afternoon, I did not see any right-of-way activity permits submitted yet, but that will be something that can be forthcoming. Okay, so here we have aerial pictometry of the property. You'll note that it's looks like it was former ag land with the home here on site as well. And here's some on the ground photos as well. This is West Bell Road here in the top left photograph to the right of the public notice sign. And then turning left with the camera is just a picture of the petition site itself. Okay, so here we have the petitioner's statement that was submitted and is included in the packet, basically talking about their intention to establish a winery on the property. In full transparency, there was a communication with the petitioner with planning staff regarding the original intent to have a bit more of a event type center at this property, but with communication with planning staff and the guidance that would say something along the lines of those uses would incorporate something more like a planned unit development. The petitioner was very amenable and stated that they would just want to do a winery, and that they understand that a PUD would require more effort and more planning in the future, and that idea may not ever come to fruition. So there were a lot of questions that were raised during the Plan Review Committee meeting. And the petitioner did take some time to make note of those questions and concerns and provided this breakdown of those kinds of concerns that were voiced. I will not read all this word for word, and the petitioner is here tonight, so he can speak on a lot of these items if you have more questions regarding them. A lot of the conversation was about truck deliveries, concern for neighbors in the area with noise and nuisance, as well as just general comments about winemaking in Indiana. Okay, so here we have the draft site plan. Again, this is just a draft, so it's just more conceptual to give you an idea of what they intend for the property. Number of structures, as well as a parking area, and then of course the large vineyard area for the growing of grapes. And then here I included a couple exhibits that are also included in the packet that kind of give you an idea of how the intended structures will look on the property. Again, all of these plans are technically subject to change, and they would be evaluated with building permits, grading permits, and the commercial site plan review process. Okay, I also included the tables for the change in zoning. So the tables here on the left with the yellow headings, that is the agricultural rural reserve zone and the permitted uses and conditional uses within that zoning district. And then on the right side of the screen in the all white table, that is the current uses permitted and conditional uses available in the RE1 zone. So definitely an uptick in permitted uses and conditional uses available in the Ag-RR zone. Okay, that brings us to planning staff recommendation. Planning staff recommends forwarding a positive recommendation to Monroe County Board of Commissioners based on the petition's compatibility with the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan and subject to the highway engineer and MS4 coordinator reports. And just this evening, I will state that although we haven't received any formal letters of remonstrance or support for the petition. A community member did provide me with a signed petition against the rezoning of this parcel, and I can distribute that. It's just got some signatures on it. I'll present that to each of you now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Myers. Are there questions for planning staff from members of the Plan Commission? Do you see any?
I have a question.
Yes.
So just to clarify, what has been the resolution regarding road access? Is it Bell or Kinzer?
I think the highway engineer or the highway department could best answer that question, because the comments are on, one comment suggests West Bell, and then one comment says North
Right.
Kinzer Pike could be okay.
Right, right.
Okay, are there other questions for staff? Or would you like to hear from the petitioner now? Is Mr. Rolfson here? If you'd come to the podium, sign in, and state your name and where you currently live.
Okay, my name is Tim Rolfson. I currently live in Fishers, Indiana. If this comes to pass, we will be moving to Bloomington. We've already started investigating building sites down here and home sites. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to go through the questions that I attempted to answer based on the first meeting or not. So, you know, the game plan here is to produce something that will, at the very least, hopefully add value to the area. By putting in a winery, we'll be surrounding it with grapevines, which I think will add to an aesthetic for the area, possibly to the value of the homes that surround it. When I talked to Paul Sadinger, his first recommendation was for the driveway to be off of Bell Road. I pushed back on that, and I said, you know, I want to be a good neighbor here. I don't want a lot of traffic going up and down Bell Road. It's a small road. It's private. It's a dead end. Can we put it on Kinzer Pike? We already have a driveway sitting right there, a curb cut, if you will. And he came back and said, yeah, we can do that, but it needs to be at least 150 feet from Bell Road. So the current position I've got for the first driveway into the parking lot, and again, this is all subject to having somebody like Mr. Deckard come out and do you know, a site survey on it, and having the engineers look at the site as well. But bringing the first driveway off of Bell Road at about 225 feet, and then a second production driveway where, and we will, like any other buddy that's in this business, have trucks come in from time to time, bringing in fruit and or juice. But the idea is to keep the traffic away from the residential area. One of the questions that was brought up was perhaps a concern about loud music. You know, tasting room hours would probably be from anywhere from Thursday through Friday, or Thursday through Sunday, approximately, and this can change, approximately from 11 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. So I don't really see any situations other than if we ask for a special permit. I don't know what the process is in Monroe County, but if we have an opportunity to have a larger event that might go on a little bit longer than that, I'm guessing there might be a permitting process to do that, but it's not going to be something that happens frequently. And again, the whole idea is, you know, to have a good business and to be a good neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Rolfson.
Sure.
Do you have anything further, or can members of the commission ask you questions?
Oh, please do, yeah.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Rolfson? Yes, Council Member Munson.
Yes, I may have questions after I hear from the citizens who oppose this.
Sure.
But what steps do you have planned to visually screen your operations from the residences? that are nearby?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So the first thing, I don't know if the site plan can be brought up, Drew, but so the vines themselves are going to be approximately 5 feet high, 6 feet high. So there's going to be pretty good visual there. The other thing we're going to do is, if you look at it, we've got trees coming in along here. And when you look at it from where the site plan is, the trees can't be real high because then the canopy is going to be really high, and that doesn't block them. So we'll probably use something like arborvitaes or that type of plant around here that's going to have a lower canopy that between that and the vines can shield the residents from when you look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll hear from the public, and then you'll have a 5-minute opportunity for a rebuttal.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Rolson. Okay, are there members of the public here who would like to speak in favor of this petition, or online, or on phone? If so, please make yourself known. And if there are members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition, you each have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium, sign in, and then we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for sitting through and your patience tonight. We appreciate it, your involvement with the community. So, sir, would you state your name and tell us where you live?
Yes. My name is Paul Green, and I live at 1265 West Bill Road. And I'm in opposition of this rezoning. I'm here to speak for myself and the ones who have signed the petition and cannot attend. We are against the rezoning. Start with a little bit of background on the area. 6 others and myself worked very hard to stop the city from annexing this area to keep it rural. We were able to stop the city. To start with, this area is a nice, quiet area, and we would like to keep it that way. The traffic on Kinser Pike more than tripled since they built I-69, and will substantially, with any business in the area, especially a winery, will increase dramatically. Kinser Pike between Bales Road and I-69 bridge and pavement and the pavement that starts with it is very narrow, hilly, and curvy. I measured it, and at Bales Road, the road is only 18 feet wide, and it curves. It is only 17 feet wide in right there at the curves. The road at the golf course is 24 feet wide in comparison. If you meet a large truck in this area, one of you have to get off the side of the road to keep from hitting each other. I have supplied photos and short video of this area. Bales Road is bad shape and is only 18 foot wide, or approximately 18 foot wide, and has 2 bad curves in the middle of a hill. If 2 vehicles meet at this point, one has to stop and let the other one through. At one time, Oliver Winery tried to build a winery at the southeast corner of Cancer Pike and I-69. The city would not let them do that. And we also have a lot of bikers out there. We have the high school students who train for track up and down that road. And it makes it really dangerous because it's really not wide enough to support any big trucks, which still come out through there, and they all seem to want to run well over the speed limit. Now, if we want to take a look at the pictures, you can see there is a tree that has been hit many times. Next picture, there's another tree. It's been hit several times, started to rot. You can see here where people ran off the side of the road. Please excuse me, I had a cancer treatment earlier.
Well, thank you for coming tonight.
Most of these are pictures where people have had to go off the side of the road to keep from having an accident. And you will see eventually, a little bit further now, that's right at the start of where the blacktop from the city meets the concrete from where they built the bridge. And as you can see, I'm in a little Ford Ranger truck, and that road just barely wide enough. So trying to get semis or dump trucks and so forth down through there is almost impossible unless somebody literally goes off the side of the road. I've scratched up the side of my vehicle several times.
Yes. Well, Mr. Green, I think you've made your points very clear, and we appreciate your coming tonight. I've given you a little extra time, and we'll hear from the others who are here too. And we appreciate your coming out tonight. We really do. So of course, we'll have a vote later.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is couple of photographs I'd like for you to see.
Yes.
They're right there, pictures of right in that area.
Yes.
You can see where people's ran off the road on both sides, and because
yes,
the road really wasn't wide enough.
Yeah, your picture showed a lot of tire tracks in the mud. So thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you for coming tonight. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? If there's someone, you please come to the podium and sign in, and then tell us your name and where you live. Thanks again for your patience so far tonight. We're sorry these meetings can be long, but we're moving as fast as we can.
Okay. So my name is Pete Bellisis. I brought my lovely wife Jana with me today. The counter's begun, so 3 minutes isn't a lot of time. Paul covered a lot of the road problems, and first of all, I should state that I do live and have lived. My wife and I rent on private property truly directly across from one of the proposed drives on Bell Road. Appreciate Mr. Rolfson considering the neighbors and his petition with his other driveway access. There's a lot that Paul said that I don't have the time to expand on, but he is correct. I'm a lifelong, since 1977, Bloomington resident. My wife and I briefly moved out of state and bought and sold our first home in what I consider a shattered economy. Our realtor likes to say we broke even, but I disagree. And so we moved 5 or 6 vehicles out there, but that's neither here nor there. But actually moving the vehicles has something to be said about what Paul mentions, because we had a 9-car hauler take 2 of our sports cars, and that 9-car hauler had a bear of a time on Bales Road and making that turn to get on Kinzer Pike. So roads have been covered by Paul. I really want to stress just some of the things that, we may have thought we lost both financially and teaching jobs that did not work out for both of us out in the state of Maryland. We lived in nearby Delaware, where my wife's from. But there's just something to be said about why we came back, and there's a lot of gratitude to our landlord who is here. I don't know if she'll speak, but she certainly signed the petition. It was her late parents' property that sits right there at the corner. I guess it would be the southwest corner of Bell Road and Kinzer Pike. It's just such a beautiful area. The balloons, they take off and land, and they're low enough that we've been able to yell up to, usually it's the children in the baskets that like to yell back to us. The adults don't seem to interact as much. So there's just something to be said about the hawks. I've seen a bald eagle out there. I've seen a bobcat. We have deer that cross right over. All that'll be gone, never again to be happening. And I get it, and I understand Fishers. My wife and I were in Fishers just the other day. Carmel-like in all of its roundabouts, and criticism of Fishers can be left to another day. I don't want Bloomington to become Fishers. I mean, I met my beautiful wife in Los Angeles. I know quite a bit about suburban sprawl and multi-uses, and looking at all the uses besides a winery. The winery alone bothers me. It bothers me tremendously. I used to be a mountain biker. I graduated to motorcycles many years ago. I don't want to be punted off my motorcycle by an inebriated driver. There's just so many things that a winery brings. I love Oliver Winery, but it's down the highway, and it's in highway with massive speeds or high speeds. We might have people that do drive fast, but we get sheriffs out there occasionally, and they're going to ticket them, because this is a quiet area. It's Grant Wood-like, it's bucolic, pastoral. This will all go away, and this bothers me tremendously, and why I appreciate going over time and getting a chance to state my case. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Belesis, if I pronounced your name properly.
It's a tough one. Belesis, I've heard many variations.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming tonight and for sitting through the meeting. Is there someone else who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? If so, please come to the podium, raise your virtual hand on Zoom, press *9. Just like the record to reflect that there are probably 8, 9 people sitting in the room together from the neighborhood, just to let the record reflect. And then there are 22 signatures on this petition against the proposal, just for the record. So Mr. Enright Randolph?
Well, to your point with the petition, the citizens' petition against the rezoning of, were the 2 gentlemen that just spoke, are they on this?
Mr. Belesis is, but Mr. Green is not.
Mr. Green's not? Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry if that's what you just covered. I was looking at the use
That's
table, but I just wanted to make sure that
Thank you. So
I was
that's
correct.
23. So, but now Mr. Rolfson has another 5 minutes to address some of the issues that were brought up. If you would come back to the microphone, sir, and address the issues that the citizens are concerned about.
I certainly understand that change sometimes can be disconcerting. When we moved into our house in Fishers, and first of all, I'm not looking to turn this into Fishers, Indiana. One of the reasons we want to move down here is to get out into areas that have a little more space. The lots we're looking at are 3 to 5 acres because we would like space. Right now, we're on a little bit more than 1/4 of an acre. But that said, we're not trying to turn this into Fishers, and I think there's always a concern. You can have somebody who's been drinking and run somebody off the road or run off the road themselves, whether they've been drinking or not. You know, our goal is to manage what's going on very responsibly, what's going on in the winery, just as Oliver and just as Butler have. Butler, I took a trip out and spoke to Jim last week, and I was here. My architect was here, and I stopped out and spoke to Jim. That's a windy road. And I didn't feel there was any more risk on that road than there was in mine. And Jim indicated he's hosted at least one and maybe multiple events where over 500 people were on his property. And I didn't hear anything negative about repercussions, about people running off the road or otherwise getting into accidents. As far as the property is concerned, you know, the whole goal is to keep, and Mr. Satterley agreed to it, is to keep the driveways off of Bell Road so that they don't interfere with the neighbors. We're going to keep them on Kinzer Pike. As far as trucks getting there, in the process, there was just a really bad house that was on the property. And for us to move forward with it, Jeff Brawley agreed to tear it down. I paid for the removal of the debris. We had about 11 of Republic's biggest trucks come up and down that road. They didn't come up Bales Road. They came in off of the highway and came up Kinzer Pike, and I can't remember what all the twists and turns are there, but that's how they came about. They didn't come up Bales Road. I know Bales Road, and maybe you can speak to this, Drew, a little bit better, or maybe Paul can, but I know they're going to be repairing that bridge. I don't know if there are other improvements that are going to happen on the road, but the weight of the bridge will improve. But getting back to the trucks, Oliver Winery, and I know they're in a different location, they have 120,000 gallon tanks. Our biggest tank, and this is maybe in 5 or 10 years, is going to be 10,000 gallon tanks, which means that the trucks that come in to where we're at aren't going to be any larger and maybe even smaller than the dump trucks owned by the neighbor to our north. And he owns a trucking company. I don't know, does anybody know what the name of that is? Yeah, okay. So he's going to be running trucks a lot more frequently than we will. You know, when we make wine, we're going to be bringing in material in maybe the September through October timeframe. It won't be significant. In the first couple of years, it'll be more. And then once we get the fruit growing, then we'll depend more on what we're growing and having people bring things in. Sorry?
Can't have that conversation.
I know.
Just tell them.
We can't have that conversation between the petitioner, sorry. And you're supposed, if you don't mind, Mr. Rolfson, you can address us.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yeah. So, you know, we're just not gonna have a lot of truck traffic there. It's gonna happen during production time. Oliver Winery made 2 million gallons of wine. That's 10 million bottles. So it's almost 1 million cases of wine. In a really good year, 10 years out, we might make 25,000 cases, 1/40th of what they would make. So I guess what I want to do is dispel the notion that we're going to be anything like Oliver. We'll probably be a lot more like Butler Winery will be. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them. It's going to be a lot more of that flavor. It's going to be pleasant. You talk about pastoral. I don't know, I find a vineyard to be absolutely beautiful and pastoral myself, and I was kind of hoping that, you know, other people might think so, but everybody may have their own opinion. Change is hard sometimes, but again, the goal for me is to put some beautiful architecture out there. It's going to be farmhouse, white board and batten. It's going to look very residential. It's not going to look a lot different than what was there, and the type of work that we're going to be doing is going to be very discreet, and I personally think it would fit in quite well.
Well, thank you so much, Mr.
My pleasure.
Wilson.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I'm going to revert back here to the members of the Plan Commission for further discussion and/or motion. Mr. Enright Randolph.
So I was attempting to find it on my own, but
not that successful at trying to pare through the ordinance. When you look at page 159 of our packet, it has RE1 allowed uses, permitted, conditional. A few permitted uses are residential care homes for development. I'm not going to say that word right. So for disabled individuals, residential care homes for mentally ill, residential care homes up to 5 individuals, other than, so to my point, those are all permitted uses. There's a couple other interesting uses that are conditional: bed and breakfast, a swim club, a tennis club. I guess my question is, what are the conditions to allow a bed and breakfast in this location?
Mr. Myers?
And as you're looking that up, a lot of, when it's conditional, a lot of times that means they just have to meet these conditions and they are kind of have more of a right to build kind of scenario. So, as long as they can meet certain conditions, they could potentially operate a bed and breakfast there. So, I'm not really, settled on where I stand on this. I think the public made a great argument that was remonstrating against this, and I also think the petitioner made a great argument for this type of use. But are you ready to answer that, Jackie?
It says
Yeah, put it up on the screen. Drew, you could read it out loud if you'd like.
The conditions for a bed and breakfast is A, the operator shall reside on the property. B, the establishment shall maintain a maximum of 3 guest rooms. C, the establishment shall provide 1 parking space per guest room in addition to the spaces required for the dwelling unit. And D, the building and its parking facilities shall be designed for compatibility with the surrounding properties.
And thank you. And my main point is there might be other permitted or conditional uses in this zone that, the surrounding neighbors wouldn't want to see either. So I just kind of wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Enright Randolph. Yes, Mr. Morris?
I've had concerns about this ever since we looked at it at plan review, primarily because of the proximity to Bell Road, which is a small rural neighborhood, and a little bit because of traffic. I think the neighbors tonight have validated my concerns about what I think they would feel about this. I did some quick number crunching here, and my numbers aren't 100% accurate, but there's approximately 12 houses on Bell Road, and it looks like we've got 10 houses represented here when you take out duplicates of spouses that have signed or others living in the household. And there's also some on Kinzer Pike too, obviously. So I think Mr. Green brought up a good point about I-69 also, and the construction of I-69 made this a more rural neighborhood. Before I-69 came through, you could access Bell Road and Kinzer Pike directly from State Road 37. And when they built the bridge for Kinzer Pike over the interstate, it really cut this neighborhood off and made it much more rural. So I think this might be a different story if Kinzer Pike still had access to State Road 37, for my opinion at least. But I think overall, I like what the petitioner is proposing. I think it'd be a nice place to visit, but I just don't think this is the right area for this.
Thank you very much for your considered comments, Mr. Morris. Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
2 things. I would like to have this brought back for the final hearing in February, and here's why. I feel like there's a lack of clarity from the Highway Department on the entry point, and also to discuss whether or not the adjoining access roadways will be what the future holds for them and when. So I think a review of our thoroughfare plan is in order, but I think a lot of this has to do with traffic, and I would just ask those who are opposed that if it's not traffic, then I'd like to know what other concerns you have about this space becoming a winery. And so if folks want to email in, they can call the planning department. I invite them to go on to the county website, co.monroe.in.us. They're welcome to find my cell number and my email and send their notes or comments to me as well. I just invite that because it doesn't say on the petition what the concerns are, and I think I'd want to see what they are and to see if they have been addressed or could be addressed as well before I just right out of hand say decline. But that's my perspective, and so I'd like to hear this in February with some more information. Maybe Ms. Ridge could be here in February to join us for the meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Munson?
Yes, Commissioner Thomas had a really good idea to hear more directly from the petitioners about their particular concerns. And I would ask that they communicate with the Plan Commission office, who could then make that information available to all of us in advance of the next meeting. In addition, I would like to know from our highway director what optimal or approximately optimal locations there are for a driveway entrance to the property, other than Bell Road, but which particular locations along Kinzer Pike, because there are other residences there, and I think we need to see how they might be affected. So what are the options for driveways? Thank you.
Thank you. And I have just one statement to make that first, well, two. I agree with Mr. Morris. And secondly, and with the other comments made by Commissioner Thomas and Councilor Munson, but also this is appears to me to be spot zoning, which is something we're not supposed to be doing. So because it is just for this parcel of land for this particular purpose. Am I wrong, Mr. Schilling? You're looking at me.
A spot zone is a zoning designation that is not related to the criteria or justified by the 5 criteria you're supposed to consider on a rezoning application. As Drew pointed out, though, next door is the same zone. The property adjoining it is the same zone. So it's not like some spot out there.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. I'm sorry. And so anyway, I think Commissioner Thomas had another statement.
Yeah, I do want to thank all the folks who are here and the folks that took time to sign a petition. Here's the good news. This gives you another opportunity to come back and to voice your concerns to us. This petition will still have to go in front of the Board of Commissioners as well. So you have other opportunities to voice your concerns. But I do want to say that this will now be the first item on the agenda, so I appreciate your patience tonight, and you won't have to be as patient next time.
Yeah, and Mr. Green, you can sign it now. You can get a chance to sign it. So we won't be taking a vote on it unless somebody makes a motion. Yes, Mr. Caritas.
Quick comment, it might be useful with some of the comments that the neighbors had for the petitioner to come up with some sort of understanding of what the traffic count might be. Coming into the facility, you'll have the type of use and the square footage of the building, the type of clientele, et cetera. And as a fairly direct calculation on how to determine that might be useful to help people understand what those vehicle moves are going to be on the adjacent roadways. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garitas. Okay, well, that concludes our discussion today of this particular case. In 1 month, the second Tuesday of February, it's 5:30, we will be meeting again, and this will be on our agenda. And so we welcome you back, and we look.
The third Tuesday.
The third Tuesday.
So it'll be February 21st.
February 21st, okay. Yes.
What you
Sorry, yes, what she said. I'm a little bit discombobulated today. So thank you for coming and thank you for attending to your neighborhood. Okay, and so now we turn to the staff for any other updates from legal or planning.
I have one report, and that is that the Purdue Extension A&R agent, Edward Ullman, did reply. It's his third day today, so he wasn't able to make it to tonight's meeting, but I sent him the information for the administrative meeting as well, so hopefully he's able to attend and get started. So
oh, that's great.
We welcome him aboard, and we'll have 9 Plan Commission members yet again.
Very nice.
And then Cheryl, I'll meet with you to get that oath signed, and then you'll be all set. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. And if there's no objection, we can adjourn.
No
Thank you, Ms.
objection.
Carlson. Thank you.